Welcome to this week's edition of Retire Simply DFW, the show that's committed to helping make your retirement simple. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined today by the co-founders of Compass Retirement, Scott and Angela Winstead. Scott, Angela, it's always so good to see you. How are you this week?
Hi, we are doing great. We love coming in and sharing with you too, Kristen.
So happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely.
Always a joy to be with you, and I know that you are busy serving the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and not only meeting with folks who call from the show and come in to meet with you, but you do a lot of live events as well. So tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, no doubt. We are jam-packed with our calendar, but in a great way. So one of the things that we love doing is actually getting out into the community and teaching. So we host, events where, it might be at a great restaurant. We host events that are more educational based, so think of it maybe at a library or a community center. And the goal is to really, be able to provide value, some key takeaways that we think people really need to know to make their plan really work in retirement. And obviously we're always able to offer, if you want to come in and visit, we would love that. And if not, hey, we hope you got a lot out of it.
Yeah, and some of those other events that we do are very specific towards women, right? They are my favorite classes. I'm always proud of the ladies that can get out and start taking this on and conquering it. And we also do a lot of fun activities too. So you'll see us out in the community with Compass Cares doing some great community work as well, and sometimes we serve that way too.
That's awesome. Well, I know you are very busy, so we so appreciate you being here in the studio with us today, and you've prepared another great show for our viewers at home. We're going to be working through, as you all, if you've watched the show before, Scott and Angela have a trademarked process using the acronym for the word SIMPLY. So today's show is all about the P, which stands for protecting your legacy. Now, Scott and Angela, I know that there's a lot of misconceptions out there about the term estate plan. And as I've traveled the country and worked as a financial educator, a lot of people out there think that they don't need to have an estate plan, but we all know that that's not true. So let's start with that. Why is it so important for folks to have an estate plan?
Oh my gosh, one thing I would say is if you've focused on your relationships your whole life, and this is what I mean, let me kind of break this out. Our whole lives, especially as women and men too, but we focus on our families and our relationships and the people we love. It's so important. We put so much effort into staying connected with them. Well, when we leave this planet and we have stuff left behind and nobody knows where it's supposed to go, that turns into a bit of a disaster is what we typically find. So those relationships that were so strong beforehand, it's really a test for them. And as we're visiting with people, like you were sharing, a lot of people don't think they need a legacy plan because they don't think they have a lot left. Does that make sure they're not the kind of people that really need a legacy plan?
Right. Oh, I'm not this huge wealthy billionaire.
I'm not a Rockefeller.
Right.
Exactly.
So unpack that myth, because
you absolutely need a plan. But the thing is most of the people that we visit with, we ask them, hey, are you looking to leave tons of money to your children or charities, or what are your goals? And we do have some folks that want to do that. And the majority of our people say, hey, I just want to give the kids the leftovers. Everything I've saved, everything we've worked so hard for, we want to make sure we have a great retirement and the kids will get the leftovers. Well, that's fantastic if it's very well spelled out. Because like Scott and I always share, if you have kids and when they were little, they fought, well, what in the world do you think they're going to do about your property and your money and your leftovers when you're no longer here and they have to figure out what to do themselves? We don't want to get in that situation.
No, for sure. It can get very messy very quickly. And I've heard it said that everyone has an estate plan, whether or not you know it. It's just a matter of if you're deciding where things go, or heaven forbid, you die without a will, you die without the right things in place. Well, guess what? Now the state is deciding who gets what, and it's not necessarily your wishes being carried out.
100%. And I think, for a lot of folks in retirement right now, they've kind of been called this sandwich generation, right? They're dealing with aging parents. Maybe they're in charge of their parents' financial matters, right? Yep. They also have maybe grown kids that they feel responsible for in some form or fashion. It's a really tough spot to be in. But focusing on the estate plan in particular, when things aren't laid out and organized, it takes this burden and it sets it at the feet of someone else to have to figure out. And
Absolutely.
it can be quite confusing, quite time consuming to really, work through this. And so as we look at things, we want to make sure that at least there's some basic parts to their estate plan or their legacy plan that folks in retirement we feel need to have. And it doesn't need to be complicated.
Exactly.
It's still part of Retire Simply.
Yep. Yeah.
But you've got to have some basic things.
So what are the basics of an estate plan that every person should have?
Well, the first thing we would say is you need to have a will or living will, right? That's very important. We also want to make sure that you've got what we would say are the powers of attorney. So let's kind of define that a little bit, right?
Okay.
Let's start with a medical power of attorney. So who can act if you're incapacitated or you can't make a decision? Who are you putting in charge that can make that decision? Whether that's a spouse, right? Or whether that's a child. Typically, we find a lot of people don't want the hospital making a decision about what an end of life or care may look like at that point, right? So that medical power of attorney is very important. I think the second power of attorney, Kristen, that we're really looking for is the financial power of attorney. So again, if you're incapacitated,
that's a tongue
easy for me to say. But if you're incapacitated,
One more time.
and you can't make financial decisions, who's making them for you? Who's writing that check? Who is making sure the bills get paid? Because unfortunately, the electric company still wants the bill to get paid.
Of course.
The tax department still wants the property taxes to get paid, right? They don't take too kindly to things not being paid.
Right.
So we've got to make sure that's taken care of. Now, the last thing you may or may not need would be some sort of a trust. And that's different, I think, depending on the state you're in. For a state of Texas, what we find is a lot of times that avoids maybe having to go to the court and the court deciding things. So do you need a trust? Do you not? One of the things we're really good at helping folks do is decipher and answer that question. Sometimes it's positioned that everybody needs one. Sometimes it's positioned that nobody needs one. I think it's a case by case, and that's where the customization of the plan really comes into play.
I mean, like so much else in financial planning and developing these plans for folks, it really depends on your individual situation.
Yep. There's absolutely fundamental basics, but then everything else is unique to us.
Right. Well, I know a lot of folks are watching today going, wow, I haven't maybe necessarily thought through all this yet, or I've had an estate plan, but it might not have been updated. What do you have for folks today that will help them get on track to make sure that their wishes are going to be carried out the way that they want them to be?
Oh yeah, that would just be a normal part of our Retire Simply plan, right? We make sure that everything is addressed in that plan for you. Let me tell you folks, I know how important the people are to you in your life. And when you're no longer here, you want to give them the grace of being able to remember you and love you and all of the great times that they've had with you. You don't want them arguing about the little bit of stuff that you have left, because now it doesn't mean that much to you. So if you need some help with that, we would love to help you. If you're 3 to 5 years away from retiring or you're already retired, we can help. If you've saved over $300,000 or more for your retirement, that's perfect for our kind of planning. Please pick up the phone. Do yourself a favor. Get it done. Get it taken care of. You will feel so much better. Pick up that phone and dial 844-861-5203. We can't wait to help you.
Angela, Scott, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but the number to call is on the bottom of your screen, 844-861-5203, to be able to get started on your own complimentary, free of charge Retire Simply plan. And as part of that plan, they're going to help you navigate all these estate planning things that you need to have in consideration for your individual financial plan as well. You're also welcome to take out your smartphone. Simply scan that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few simple questions, and a member of the Compass Retirement team will reach out to you and get you connected to come in and schedule your complimentary meeting with Scott and Angela and their team at Compass Retirement. When we come back, we're going to be delving more deeply into some specific things you need to be aware of as it relates to estate planning. And if you've ever wondered how you can create greater tax efficiency throughout your estate plan, you're not going to want to miss it. More after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Well, welcome back to Retire Simply DFW. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with Scott and Angela Winstead, co-founders of Compass Retirement. We are talking today about the importance of estate planning, and the reality is we know that for a lot of folks, this is not really a fun subject, right? No one wants to really think about what happens once they're no longer here, but as we have all seen at this table, it is by far one of the most loving things that you can do for those that you leave behind, because when you're grieving, that is not the time on top of everything else that you want to be handed a nightmare and a mess in your lap that you have to wade through. And I know you had shared a story with me that really illustrated why this is so important. Would you be willing to share that?
Sure, Kristen. You know, it is very important. I would say over the years, Angela and I have seen a lot of families that have experiences and quite frankly, have had hardships by not having this piece in particular figured out to their retirement plan. Right. And I think to your point, it isn't always the most fun thing to think about, but when you have it planned out, hey, now you can be free, now you can be present, you can really enjoy your retirement.
Not have to worry about it.
You know, a couple years ago, Terry came into the office and we were talking about this, and she wasn't a family that we served yet, but she was sharing with us that you know, she had two younger brothers. She was the oldest, and their mother had just passed away, and their mother did not have any sort of an estate plan, and there was some property, there was money, and Terry, being the oldest, was the executor to kind of figure out how everything was supposed to get doled out.
And
and unfortunately, because there were three of them, they couldn't really come to an agreement. Are we selling property? Are we not selling property? Who wants to be bought out? Who doesn't want to be bought out? Just all of these things that happen, and the family dynamics deteriorated very quickly. And as I heard that story, my heart broke really for her, because there's no reason that it needs to be like that.
Exactly. It's preventable.
Exactly.
Right?
With a little bit of forethought, a little bit of planning, you can lay out and say, okay, here's exactly the way I want this thing to look. And Terry's point was, hey, I've got children and I want to make sure I do it differently for them. I want to make sure that they don't get at each other once I'm no longer here. So all of that to be said, you know, wherever the pain point is in someone's retirement right now, we want to make sure that our Retire Simply plan is addressing that for them. And we find that this is an oftentimes overlooked area of the plan.
Well, I know you've mentioned that your Retire Simply plan addresses this. So walk folks through that. They come in, they meet with you, you know, it's part of that overall financial plan. What are the different components that you're going to be able to address for them?
Well, the one we're talking about today is P, right? So protecting your legacy. And, you know, I just want to follow up a little bit with what Scott was saying, because it is uncomfortable addressing these issues. So let's just be crystal clear about that. But I would ask you this. Would you rather go through a small amount of discomfort, or would you rather have your family and your loved ones go through chaos? Because really, That's not an uncommon story that Scott shared about Terry. And oftentimes when people are left with things, we see that it sometimes takes them 2 or 3 years to work through this stuff. So protecting your legacy is just an amazing gift to give to your loved ones, right? It's not the stuff, it's the energy in which they get them in.
Absolutely.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think in particular, what we really do is try to take the time and ask a lot of questions to say, in an ideal world, how would you want this to be given? And whether that's, hey, I've got 3 kids and everybody gets, 33 1/3 or however that looks, no problem. Maybe it's, hey, I've got 3 kids, 2 of them would be very responsible if they inherited all of our money, but there's always that one kid that's on the first plane to Vegas, right? Or whatever that looks like. So I want that one, maybe rather than inheriting a lump sum, maybe they get payments or whatever that looks like.
Right.
It's one of those things where we help you figure out what the goal is in an ideal world, and then help you figure out what are the pieces of the plan you need from an estate planning standpoint or a legacy planning standpoint that we need to go get. And it doesn't mean you need to go sit down with a high-priced attorney and feel like, I'm getting all this crazy trust work
Legalese,
done.
right?
It doesn't mean that. In fact, we go so far a lot of the times to meet with the estate planning attorney, or there's some great online resources. If you know that your estate plan is going to be really simple, like, hey, I've got 1 house, a couple retirement accounts, and I've got 2 kids, and they want to split it 50-50. There's some great online tools you can use to help set up your estate plan. So it does not mean you have to go visit with a high, cost attorney and feel overwhelmed by the process, but we will handhold you and guide you for that.
Yeah, and oftentimes when we're working with our clients, we get to meet the kids, right? We invite them to bring them in there. Hey, everybody knows that there's a circle of life, and so when transitions take place, we want to make that as seamless for our folks as we possibly can. And like Scott was saying, it can be as simple of a plan as you want. It can be as complex as you want. My grandmother went to great detail, and I'll let you know, one of the things that she had in her legacy is she had the grandchildren numbered, and we all got a number, and they laid out all of her jewelry. Now, this was costume jewelry, so but it was very sentimental to us. She laid out all the jewelry, and we all got to go in order of our tickets. So it can be as detailed as you want or as simple as you want, but it's all about what you want and how you want your things to transfer.
For sure. And those are conversations that, you can't know that until you have that conversation, right?
Yeah.
But again, if someone's watching this and they might feel overwhelmed, maybe they haven't even started the estate planning process, where do they need to start? What can you all do for them?
Oh my gosh, well, we can help you start the conversation, right? That's the most important part. Most people don't want to think about this, but if you have someone that can listen to you and you can tell that they're intently listening and they care about the things that you're caring about, that's the person you want to talk to. That's the person you want holding your hand and helping your family move through that. If that sounds like you, pick up the phone. That's why we're here, giving you this information, empowering you, just like we will do in our visits. So if you're 3 to 5 years away from retiring, or maybe you've already retired, fantastic, and you've saved $300,000 or more, that's the kind of planning that we do. This will be great for you. Check it off your list, pick up that phone, give us a call, 844-861-5203. We can't wait to help you. Get it done.
Angela, Scott, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, that number to call is on the bottom of your screen, 844-861-5203. We encourage you, give yourself the gift of peace of mind that can come from having these conversations, from having experts such as Scott and Angela and the team at Compass Retirement help you navigate all these estate planning questions so that you don't have to stress about it, you don't have to worry about it any longer. Today's the day. We encourage you, pick up that phone and call or scan that QR code. And when we come back, we're going to delve into specifically greater tax efficiency throughout your estate plan as well. More after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Retire Simply DFW. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Scott and Angela Winstead, co-founders of Compass Retirement. And Scott and Angela, I appreciate so much your heart for folks and wanting to really help them navigate the complexities of estate planning as part of an overall comprehensive financial plan, but to make it simple. But I know one of the things you're also really passionate about is helping folks not pay more in tax than they need to. And tax planning and strategic tax planning is so critical for estate planning. So touch on that for us.
It is, Kristen. And, you know, most times folks, as we like to say, want to leave the leftovers, right, to their children or maybe their grandchildren.
Right.
They're not trying to set out to leave $1 million. It's like, hey, we're going to spend what we want to spend and do the things we want to do, whatever's left. And so a lot of times, just based off the way people have saved for retirement, maybe that's a 401k or a traditional IRA or a 403b if you're a teacher. You know, there's a tax implication to those accounts, especially when money comes out. Now, if your spouse inherits those accounts, the tax impact isn't that significant, okay? However, if you leave that type of money that hasn't been taxed just yet to a non-spouse, so whether that's a child or a niece or a nephew or whatever that looks like, a brother or sister, the tax impact can be fairly significant. So much so that it can increase the amount of taxable income that person has. So for instance, if I had, let's say, a $1 million IRA and I pass away and I leave it to our oldest son, could you imagine that?
He would love that.
He would love that. But anyway, let's say I left it to him, right? He would basically have 10 years to get all of the money out of there.
And that's the change that came recently with the Secure 2.0.
Absolutely. And so when he has to take that money out, that has to be reported as additional income to him and gets added on top of his income. So now he may be jumping a tax bracket based off of inheriting my unpaid tax bill. So the IRS is going to come for their, I would say, their pound of flesh for their taxes. It's just a matter of, can we do some really great tax planning on the front end before the transition happens so that while I'm alive, let's say, I'm getting more income that's tax-free, I'm paying less in taxes, and the byproduct of me planning for taxes in my retirement will be whoever inherits this money, the tax benefit will be larger for them. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Absolutely, because that's always so tragic when people think they're doing a beautiful thing, right? I'm going to pass on this money to my child or whatnot, and then the child inherits it, and now they've got a tax situation on their hands, a tax bomb, if you will, instead of a gift.
Absolutely.
Yes. We even find with spouses, right? So what is one of the big things that happens when one passes away? Well, we move from a married filing joint tax return to a single tax return. So like Scott was saying, and if we're having to take those distributions or we're having to take money out of it, just if they're retirement age, we're also in a single tax bracket. So the taxation might be a lot larger than we were thinking. So it's really, really important to think through these things.
For sure.
And with proper planning, you know, it just doesn't need to be this horrific way to inherit money. That's where the P and Retire Simply, protecting your legacy, really comes into play. So again, it is a piece, I would say an arrow in the quiver, right, of your overall plan, but it's so important because no matter what you might want to leave behind, most people don't want the IRS or the federal government scooping in and taking a big chunk. It's like, hey, I'm going to leave just this, but I want as much of that to go to them as possible.
Well, and it speaks to the fact that how you make a decision in one area of your financial life does and will affect all of the others. And there's that ripple effect. And what you're talking about are the tax implications of some of these key decisions that need to be made regarding estate planning.
Such a good point. You know, we have a saying in our office that when you retire, all of your accounts become connected. So you're no longer making decisions in a silo, right?
Yeah.
But when you take money, let's say out of your IRA, affects your taxes, could affect your Medicare, could affect your Social Security, right? That sort of thing. Well, when you're working, when I put money into the 401k, let's say, and I make an investment decision, it only affects that 401k. So upon retirement, that's when everything becomes connected.
Yep,
and again, from an estate planning standpoint, it's so important to have that planned and mapped out.
Yeah, and I would say one thing after you get it planned and mapped out, let's make sure that we have all of our documents organized.
Oh, yes.
Let's make sure that our kids or our beneficiaries or the people we love actually know where they are. If you're working with us, right, we just expect the kiddos to give us a call and we'll walk them through it all. All they need is our phone number. If you're not working with us, I want to share this tip, okay? So I met this fantastic lady probably about 6 years ago. Her name is Fran, and she's 76 years old. And she's retired, has been for a while. She loves to be involved in the community, right? She loves to give back. And one of the ways that she does that is through the Neighborhood Watch program.
Okay.
So she gets together with her neighbors all the time. The police come out and teach them about how to be safe and different money-saving tips. I want to pass along this money-saving tip. I asked her, I said, okay. I said, so here are your documents. I need, put them in a very safe place.
Right.
Maybe like a fireproof safe or something like that. She said, oh, honey, I've got one better than that. I go, okay, tell me what that is. She's like, have you ever seen one of those deep freezes on the side of the road and nobody wants it anymore, the kind that lock and have a key? I said, yes. She said, I grabbed one from the side of the road, put it in my garage. It does not work, but it has a key,
and
it's
a lock.
Fireproof, and it locks, and it was free. So you have no excuse. You
She
can
did
use
not tell
anything
us
you
though
want.
what the smell may or may not have been
Right,
like
right.
on it.
No,
but
no
she had it.
but her loved ones knew where it was. So if you want your loved ones to know what you're planning, and for things to unfold for them, I would say gracefully. Make that transition smooth. Let us help you. If you're 3 to 5 years away from retiring, maybe you're already retired, yahoo! And you saved $300,000 or more and you want some help, we are here for you. Pick up the phone, get it done. Oh my gosh, you will feel amazing when you know where this is going and you've got it all done. So pick up the phone, don't hesitate, 844-861-5203. We're ready to help you.
Angela, Scott, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on the bottom of your screen, 844-861-5203. Thank you so much for watching. We love you, DFW, and as we say at Compass Retirement, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.